Hi, welcome back to Game Chat. It's Brunner. I got Elite here. I got Comedian. Unfortunately, Anthony couldn't be here with us, but he'll be back next week. And today, as we're recording this, it's been a slow week, but we decided that, because all of our interests are mostly aligned, and one of our big favorite genres of films is sci-fi, science fiction. And I'm going to put in the edit, I'm going to put the definition of science fiction, but it's basically science fiction movies, monsters, and although Star Wars and Marvel movies are in the category of science fiction, since they're a behemoth of their own, we decided to leave them out. Save that's for another episode. Save it for another day. But we're going purely on just sci-fi movies, no comic books, no George Lucas properties. So we're doing
Yes.
our top 5 science fiction movies of all time. Now, who would like to go first?
So mine are in no particular order, but I have a bunch of like honorable mentions. And this was actually one of the hardest things for me to do because I literally was started to think about how do I want to kind of bring this down. And then I started to think about it and I was like, okay, I'm going to take two from that got me in the two that got me really into science fiction and then kind of go from there. And the first movie that really got me into science fiction, one of the first sci-fi movies I ever saw in my lifetime, was Close Encounters of the Third Kind by Steven Spielberg. Phenomenal movie, great soundtrack, of course, but to this day, it's still one of the best movies I ever saw.
So, mine is actually a pretty recent one. I would put it in the category of sci-fi. It just came out 2 years ago. Pandemic movie, and it's Christopher Nolan's Tenet. It's a really good film. I enjoy it. It's like a spy film plus science fiction with like the way. So basically, it's like John David Washington's character is put on a mission. He works for this unnamed agency, but he has to steal this thing. And if and if he doesn't get it, the world is doomed. And like,
Hmm.
but the twist is like it's basically like people from the future are sending, because the movie's complicated, so people from the future are sending the past weapons, like future weapons, and then so like, but it's weird because it puts you in like a realm where everything is backwards. So literally there'll be people fighting in reverse, and like things are set in reverse. Yeah. And like people talk in reverse. And like everything ties up. Like what I like about it is everything ties itself up at the end. It might take a couple watches, but
Hmm.
I was looking at some trivia from IMDb, and one thing I liked was when the first day of shooting for Robert Pattinson, he got the announcement that he got cast as Batman, which is kind of funny because Christopher Nolan directed the last Batman movies. So he's like, hey,
Oh,
now
that's
I'm
kind of
Batman.
cool.
Yes. So my number 5 spot, I tried to, I with my list, I tried to pick movies that I really like that I feel like are not as popular as other choices.
Mm-hmm.
So for my number 5 spot, I'm gonna go with Alien Covenant.
Mm.
Ooh, okay.
I really like that one. I saw it. I saw it in the theater when right when it came out with a couple friends. I know that amongst the Alien fan base, a lot of people kind of look down on that movie. Personally, I really liked how they explained or I just thought it was very interesting how the origin to the alien species. Uh, I thought it was just a really interesting movie, and how they blended Alien Covenant with Prometheus. That movie.
Prometheus. So that was another good one. It's not on my
Hmm.
list, but that was a good sci-fi movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, Elite, you're number 4, or whatever is next on your list that you want to go. Say.
Well, kind of sticking with that same kind of theme, probably the next sci-fi movie that really kind of got me into John Carpenter in general of John Carpenter's movies, shout out to Halloween, was The
Mm-hmm.
Thing. It was a remake of the
Yeah.
1950s The Thing.
Hmm.
Phenomenal movie. Takes place. You really don't want to talk too much about it because if you watch, I don't want to give anything away because it's kind of, but it's just really, really, really good acting. Kurt Russell's in it. Really, really great. Must see sci-fi.
Yeah. Yeah. I that was earlier whenever I was revising it. I had The Thing at my 5 spot, but I heard you mention it, so I got it off my list and swapped it out.
Yeah, it's a good one.
My next one, fourth on my list. Um, I think maybe I consider this science fiction. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's its own niche, but in my opinion, it's science fiction. It's Cloverfield. It came out what
That's sci-fi.
2008. Yeah,
That's
it's
definitely
sci-fi.
sci-fi.
Because I'm like I wouldn't know if it's sci-fi because the monster is considered a kaiju, which is Godzilla and like King Kong.
Yeah.
But I'm like, it's sci-fi. I was looking at some trivia of this movie, and I totally forgot about it. Was the first the first promos for it was at I think before the Transformers movie, the Shia LaBeouf one, and it was when the the shot of like the Statue of Liberty losing its head and rolling to the street, and then they just had no
Mm-hmm.
title, like that was it, and that's I remember like being so hooked, like what is this film, and like the basic plot of the movie is like it's a going away party for some friends from like college who are like now they have jobs, and he's moving to Japan, so like they're having a party, and then something happens, and it takes place in New York City, and then so like there's like earthquakes, and they're like, oh, what's going on, it's New York, and then like there's like footage of this like monster coming out of the ocean and like tossing the head of the Statue of Liberty, and it's found footage, and like I guess because growing up in the time of like Paranormal Activity and Blair Witch Project, and like now in Cloverfield, like I'm a sucker for found film footage movies, and
Mm-hmm.
like those were the three movies who like heavily utilized like early internet marketing, which I enjoy. But like I just like I love it. It's found footage. I could watch it anytime. I could throw it on anytime. And
Yeah.
it was what you call it? J.J. Abrams produced it, and like even some of the camcorders, because the movie's filmed on like a camcorder, and so sometimes it was the actors who like were the cameramen themselves. So whatever the actors had the camera in their hand, they used that, and that would be
That's a
in the
different
final film.
approach. That's kind of
Yeah,
cool.
and then
I
I like I just want to finish this, but I was saying is I like the concept because I was reading some of the trivia and I knew this in the past. I just wanted to make sure is that the whole film started because J.J. Abrams took his son to Tokyo, and they went to a toy store, and they saw they had all these like Godzilla toys, and he's like, "Well, how come America doesn't have any kaiju monsters? Like, how come America doesn't have any monsters?" So this was their
Mm-hmm.
approach to it.
Wow.
So it's kind of funny you say that. I personally, maybe I'm just a weird dude, but I would always kind of put like Godzilla and like all those
Mhm.
when he fought Ray Rodan and all that. I always consider them science fiction because it
Mhm.
all came from a nuclear blast. Is how they were made. So
Yeah.
and they always used to play them on like sci-fi double late night double features. So I always would consider those science fiction. What about you,
All
comedian?
right.
What's your next one?
So number 4 is going to be Minority Report.
Ooh,
I don't
very
know
good
if
movie.
yes, I don't know. Yeah. So yeah, Tom Cruise movie where um it's in the whatever what I don't know when exactly it takes place. I know it's like the 2050s, 2050s or something. But
Sounds about
there's a
right.
police futuristic police force where they have some sort of like time traveling thing where they try to prevent crime from happening, or like they stop crime, they arrest people before they commit the crime. and so they completely try to erase crime, and it's just like a, and then he ends up getting in trouble somehow, and he's got to run from the organization he's in charge of. But it's a great concept. I like that's with my list. I tried to focus on concepts in universes that I like the most, but
Mhm.
that think the I have two films on my list that have to deal with more like crime, but I saw Minority Report when I was young, and I didn't know what the name of the movie was until maybe like a year or two ago, and I like remembered like, oh my god, that's the movie. But I like Minority Report a lot.
Very cool.
Solid film.
So, that's a very good film. My next one, man, we're just sticking right on that J.J. Abrams theme. J.J. Abrams, in my opinion, knocked it out of the park with Star Trek. Every one of them ones he's touched. I wasn't a big fan of like the TV show Star Trek. I've always said you're either a Star Wars fan or a Star Trek fan. You're not both. But it's interesting. I never was a TV show fan, and I never liked the original like Wrath of Khan and all those. But when J.J. Abrams redid it with Chris Pine playing the role of Captain Kirk, they're amazing movies. They're just, for some reason, they're really, really solid movies that I'll sit there and watch it for 2.5 hours. And I've literally watched a couple of those 3 or 4 times. So apparently J.J. Abrams is pretty good at sci-fi.
Yeah.
All right. Next on my list, also kind of related to comedians because it has the same actor, is War of the Worlds, 2006 with Tom
Nice.
Cruise.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, based on a remake of an adaptation of the H.G. Wells book, right?
Oh, I think it's a remake of a remake of a remake, but sure,
Yeah.
we'll go there.
Yeah.
I think it's been made like
yeah.
4
H.G. Wells
times.
wrote the novel.
Yeah.
I actually saw because it was crazy. My grandma's a fan of the original one, and I actually saw it with her recently, and I'm a big fan of the 2006 one. I just think so. Like, quick plot. Um, so it's about a divorced dad who lives in New York, and like he gets custody of his kids for the weekend, and then like there's a huge lightning storm, so now all the cars aren't working, and then so like he goes into town to see what's going on, and then there's a huge alien ship coming out of the ground, and so they're basically trying to go from New York to Boston, um, trying to reunite with the mom. And I think visually that movie still holds up. It was good when the movie came out, and like the sound of the tripods are frightening. I just love the
Mm-hmm.
film.
Yeah.
It looks great. So that's why it's number 3 on my list.
Okay. This one's hard. So I think my number 3. I think I'm gonna go with Blade Runner. Now
Ooh.
this is kind of it's kind of like both because I like Blade Runner and Blade Runner 2049 just about equally. So I'm kind of talking about like both, but I just by far probably my favorite universe from any movie. I think the atmosphere is great because it's still somewhat modern or like present day, but it has that like slight futuristic touch where it still looks like it's believable.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it just has the screaming Tokyo vibes. Like
Yeah,
it's literally
cyberpunk.
just literally to me like just looks like Tokyo, like the red light district of Tokyo. But
Mm-hmm.
that was on my short list. That was on my notable mentions. I didn't put it on here, but
Mm-hmm.
thank you at least somebody for saying it because I was like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
shit. Hopefully, it gets some respect because it's a good one.
Yeah.
I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that was actually a really, really, really good dude. Now I might want to
Yeah.
put it on my list.
Yeah. It was. like the main reason why I even wanted to get Cyberpunk is because after I had seen the Blade Runner movies for the first time, or after I'd seen them, I was like, there needs to be a game that
Yes.
has like an open world game that has a similar universe, and that was Cyberpunk. And so, and I like Cyberpunk. I never
Yeah,
had, don't
I
want
do
to get off
too.
topic, but
yeah.
I do too.
yeah,
So it's so let me did you see 2049 before you saw the original?
no,
Okay.
mm-mm,
All right. Because I think that if you saw it backwards like that, it would kind of give away some of the original.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? I think that,
hmm
but that's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah.
My next one is a movie. I think it was a sleeper. I don't remember it being very popular, but I thought the concept was really kind of cool. It was called Looper. Did anybody ever see that
yeah,
movie
Yeah.
with Bruce Willis and Josh Gordon-Levitt in it? And the concept
mhm,
basically was the mob hired people to go back in time and murder people so that they couldn't do certain things, and these people were called loopers. And I just thought it was a
mhm,
really kind of interesting concept of a movie. Kind of reminded me of a Jean-Claude Van Damme time cop movie. But I
yeah,
thought it was a really good movie that I don't think it really got a lot of love as much as, like, I don't think it did really well, but it was, I think it's the history of sci-fi anyway, in general.
Yeah.
yeah,
Either they knock it out of the park and make a ton of money, or they make no money.
Yeah. My next one, I'm not going to give a rundown because it's iconic. I don't know. I feel like it's kind of like I'm kind of basic for having this on my list, but I got to. Um, Back to the Future 2. I love
Okay.
Back to
okay,
the Future 2. I love anything time travel. I like, and then I like, because like comedian said, I like anything future, but I like it like like Blade Runner, where because like in when people come up with like, oh, how the future is, it's either like either the vibe of Minority Report or I Am Robot, where everything's all white and like
Yeah.
robots and everything, or like, or you could have like a cyberpunk Blade Runner and then like a black Back to the Future thing where there are flying cars, but it's still like not crazy. It's more a little more reachable.
mhm,
I love it. Introduced the Nike Air Mags were iconic, and I like some of I just love the atmosphere. I love the world building it's set, even though it's the same like clock tower set. It's future and the
Yeah.
hoverboards. Like it's a very iconic film.
I think you'd almost
yeah,
have to say that whole franchise as a
Mhm.
franchise. I think that was just a really, really, really good franchise for a science fiction concept.
yeah.
But I agree. It's a good one.
Comedian.
Okay, now I'm gonna say no. Okay, my number two spot is gonna be the first Matrix.
Ooh, just the
hmm
first,
Well, yeah,
not the whole franchise.
uh, I yeah, I mean, I like the whole franchise, but the first one is my favorite one.
I agree. I'm
Uh,
just saying, I agree.
yeah,
I actually like 1 and 2, and that was about it. And then it got cut. I haven't even done the
yeah,
remix, or I haven't even done it because
yeah,
it just like I think it did it too much. But I agree.
but yeah,
That's
the
on my
first one,
honorable mentions too.
yeah, the first Matrix, that now the first Matrix, that movie, out of all of probably the movies that I have seen, that one made me like think the hardest. About like the message that they are trying to send. Is do we live in a simulation? I think that's a very interesting thing to think about. Um, but yeah, they started to. By the time it got to the third one, when they had like the third one, they have like the mech battles. They started to kind of lose me there, but
Yeah,
yeah, but the
I thought it was interesting too because the whole time in the first one, first time I saw it, like I literally was just talking about this with Bruno, I think yesterday. I had to watch that 2 or 3 times really before I kind of understood what was going on, because I kept getting
Hmm.
confused. Am I in the Matrix or am I not in the Matrix? Am I, you know what I'm saying? They did a really good job of making that almost like
Yeah.
flowing. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, remember when he went in that one room and he was in the Matrix and he came back out, he was in the office. You remember,
Hmm.
like, at the very beginning? I thought that was kind of
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, I think that's a great one. It's a great one.
And then
Um,
and yeah, and or shout out to Keanu Reeves.
Shut up.
yeah. Shout out to the Wachowskis, the
Yeah.
directors of that, creating that. Um, I guarantee I probably have the oldest movie of anybody. Is the next one. It's where it kind of all started. The 1951 version of "The Day the Earth Stood Still"
Mm.
with Gort the robot. It's just kind of classic sci-fi, exactly what you would picture. You know, flying saucer lands right in front of the Washington Monument. A robot walks out, and people just don't know how to handle it and how they kind of deal with it. And it just kind of very, very, very. Is it friendly? Is it not? Starts helping us, and then we feel like. I don't want to give too much away, but it's a really, really good. It's kind of where sci-fi all began. So,
Hmm.
good movie.
Yeah, I've seen the with the remake, or like the newer one.
Yeah.
All right. I think Elite, you have the oldest on the list. I think I have the newest on the list. Newer than Tenet. Um,
Hmm.
the latest Dune film. I know Elite is a
Oh
big fan of the original one,
no.
but I love the world building in that movie, and like the concept is like amazing. Like it makes me want to read the book. That's how good it is. Because I
Hmm.
don't know a lot about it, but I know like it's interesting to see. Because if you didn't know at home, George Lucas took a lot of inspiration from
Yes.
Herbert's Dune, like the setting Arrakis, which is a sand planet, which we see is Tatooine, and the sandworm, which they also have in Star Wars, and I forget what it's called, but it's basically the lightsaber. And then like the spice too. George Lucas took the spice, and like it's fascinating because like you know they don't have like they outlawed computers, so it's interesting to see how they have space travel, but they don't have computers, and
Right.
it's like it's not it's like a medieval plus sci-fi plus like witchcraft with like the Bene Gesserits, which is also how you could say George Lucas took inspiration for the Jedi mind trick. But the newest one, visually it looked amazing and it won a bunch of Academy Awards for it. I think Timothy Chalamet was good. It had Josh Brolin, Oscar Isaac, shout out
Zendaya.
Zendaya. But like I just can't wait for the next one. But I think Dune
So
also. Oh, no, I just want to say one last thing because I was looking up some facts about Tenet. Christopher Nolan asked Hans Zimmer to do the score for Tenet, but Hans Zimmer said no. He said, "I'm working on Dune. Dune is going to be like I'm focused on
Hmm.
Dune. Like everything's Dune. Like I can't do it."
Wow.
so so the one thing I would say, I did like Dune a lot. It took me. I At first I started watching it when it was like originally on HBO Max, and then it went away. I couldn't get through like the first hour because it was so slow moving of building. But then once I got
No,
through it, I
is
was
it
like,
me?
oh, this is really, really good. I am too very excited to see part two, because my understanding is, as a person who's read the book, it's really like they cut the book in half, and this is the first part of the book, and the next one's supposed to be like the other half of the book. So that
Hmm.
should be pretty cool to see. Um, but yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah, I still have not seen Dune.
It's it's. I mean, it's epic. I think it was 3 hours long, if I remember right. It was a few
Hmm.
minutes, but it was good. It was very good. I think
Okay.
you'd like it actually. It's on
Mhm.
HBO Max.
Yeah.
Okay. So Elite and Brunner already know. I mentioned this to them, I think, either earlier this week. I think it was earlier this week. My number one sci-fi movie, or my favorite, is going to be In Time. And so I don't know. I know it's not. It's not that. I don't see anybody talking about it. So I don't know. I don't believe it's that popular. But Justin Timberlake is the main antagonist or protagonist, and it probably has my favorite. I don't know. It not universe, but just like the whole the the thing that the whole movie centers around is in this dystopian United States or dystopian world. Everybody on their forearm, they have you know like a bunch of numbers, like some LED digital number implant in their forearm,
Right.
and it shows how much time that they have. Like it's like a timer, and that's how much like life they have left. And so uh the the more rich you are, or the more money you have, it's the more time you have. And so it's the basically and then everybody stops aging at like the age of 25 or something. And basically all the full rich elite world leaders, they're basically immortal because they have so much money. And so Justin Timberlake and I forgot the actress's name, but
Amanda Seyfield.
Okay.
Let's looked it up.
Yeah, Justin Timberlake and her, I want to say they go on some sort of heist where they start like robbing. It's kind of like a Robin Hood story where they start robbing the rich of their time and giving it back to people that have less time. But
interesting concept.
It's probably not like the critics. It probably has like a low critic score, but it's got one of the most interesting like plots, or like whatever you want to call it, where like time is money. And
it's got a 37 on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
But I mean that's okay, because some of my movies, like their honorable mentions, are horrible, but I like them, and that's the whole idea. Is not everybody's gonna like the same movies. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I'll have to check that one out. I'm making a little list over here of movies. Like I've never seen Tenet, so I'm going to put the In Time on there too.
Yeah, there's one. Well, just to explain it a little bit better. So whenever I mean like, money is time. In the movie, they you go to a coffee shop, instead of paying them $2, it's like that'll be 5 minutes. And so they stretch out their arm or whatever, and then they you see the timer they have on their form. It like ticks down.
I've been losing a year a day, man, from all my coffee intake.
Yeah, so that's how it works. Is it's like, okay, that'll be 1 hour. So it's very cool, I think.
All right. I think we should be wrapping things up, but unfortunately, Anthony couldn't be here.
Oh, what's Anthony's 5?
But anyway, so Anthony's 5.
Back to the
Morbius,
Future.
We said no superhero movies. So Morbius. Number 2, Dumb and Dumber 2, When Harry Met Lloyd. Number 3, The Flintstones in Viva Rock Vegas.
What?
Number 4 is Indiana Jones, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
It was actually a good movie.
And number 5 is Goblins.
Mailbog! It's Goblin spelled backwards!
They're eating her! And then they're going to eat me! Oh my God!
So definitely, what'd you think of our list, what is on your list? Let us know. Check us out on the socials at Instagram at Game Chat Pod, and check out our list, our sci-fi. Be like, hey, I saw it, and it's definitely good. So that's all I have to say.
All right.
Anything else, guys?
No, that's it. Talk to y'all next week.
Yeah.
See you later.
Later.